say I've done over 100 ultra marathons, not just two. I didn't want you to describe me as some kind of wimp that only did two. Yeah, I do them. I tend to like to do ultra marathons once a month at least. But you know, sometimes I'll go like 3 or 4 months without doing one. But I pretty much try to. I go through withdrawals if I don't do them often enough. I love the sport of ultra marathon running.
You've also, what category too? I think that there's a category that you've claimed too for.
Well, my favorite distance is the 100-mile distance. I've done longer ones. I've done like 138 miles nonstop at 18,000 feet elevation in the Himalayas of northern India. I've done that. I've also done 135 miles through Death Valley in the middle of summer when the temperatures reached 130 degrees. And that was fun. But the thing that I'm shooting for most right now is world records for my age group. I'm just kicking butt with everybody in my age group and typically beating all the people, you know, 2 age groups below me. I'm 67, so I feel pretty awful if some 50-year-old beats me. But in 2.5 years, I turned 70, and well, I'm going to just destroy all the world records. And a good friend of mine just broke all the records, and so he knows that I'm going to go ahead and beat his records now. But that's 2.5 years from now.
I love it. Good old healthy competition. How healthy and how young can we be? So that is a true testimony right there alone. So yeah, just share with us too, just a little bit, you know, about yourself. I mean, how did you get into, you know, telomeres, being obsessed with aging, and then the merge of meeting with John Anderson for the birth of Isagenix?
Well, my obsession with trying to cure aging began when I was 10 years old. And that was, my father planted the seed in me by telling me one day that, you know, because I was so interested in science and medicine, that I should, when I grow up, become a doctor and find a cure for aging. So I've been obsessed with it ever since, all through high school and college and stuff. Everybody knew that I was somebody that was focused on trying to cure aging. But I was really frustrated by the fact that none of the theories on aging made sense to me. And it didn't explain everything. I decided there had to be some kind of clock that's ticking inside of our cells that explains everything. And, you know, what was that clock? And then in the early 1990s, I was attending a seminar, and I was at an anti-aging conference. And one of the speakers talked about the fact that telomeres shorten as you age. And it's so accurate that he could measure the length of anybody's telomeres and tell them how old they are. More importantly, you can tell them how long it'll be before they die of old age. So I thought, wow, here's a clock. The length of your telomeres shortens at such a consistent rate that he can accurately measure a person's age. So I instantly approached him and asked him if anybody's figured out how to lengthen telomeres. And he said they'd been working on it for years, in collaboration with the people that later won the Nobel Prize. But he said after 2 years, they'd not made a scratch. They had no clue as to how to lengthen telomeres and what enzymes were involved. So the guy hired me to work at Geron Corporation to take that on after I told him I'll have it figured out in 3 months. And then 3 months and 17 days, me and my team discovered this enzyme called telomerase, and we put it into human cells and showed that it reversed aging in every way imaginable in human cells in a petri dish. That was God, in mid-1990s. And so then a lot of groups have repeated that study, those studies. They've done more than just human cells in petri dishes. They've done human skin grown on the back of a mouse. And they've actually done engineered mice. Mice don't, let me say right now, mice do not age like humans do. We're a very different animal. But scientists did engineer mice so they did age like humans through telomere shortening. And we were able to show that these mice got younger in every way imaginable when we lengthened the telomeres. It's the only thing that's ever done this. Everything you've ever heard of that touts itself as a cure for aging or something like that. All they do is provide you with a little more energy. They temporarily get rid of wrinkles, which always come back. But nothing actually really reverses aging until this. This is the first thing. It still hasn't been tested in humans, and that's only because the really potent stuff is just way astronomically expensive to be able to treat a whole human. But we're working on that. We've got now some clinical studies coming up where we will be treating humans to see if we can reverse aging. Now, these are $700,000 treatments. That's our cost to produce enough of it. In the meantime, people need to be doing everything they can to keep their telomeres as long as possible so that they are healthy when we actually do make this affordable for everybody. And so in the meantime, what they should be doing is isagenesis, because isagenesis is something that does induce telomerase to be produced in your cells. And that's all telomerase does is lengthen telomeres. Now, telomere lengthening and shortening is like a tug of war. And so you still have the shortening going on. In fact, in the absence of anything, all you got is shortening. Okay, so let's say going to your left to right or my left to right, we have shortening going on. And you can do things to accelerate that shortening by poor lifestyle choices, poor diet, things like that, smoking, stress, things like that. That can make it go really fast. But nothing in our body can actually make it go the other way, can pull it the other way. So when we do something like isagenesis and treat, so what we do is we find the cells start to produce this enzyme telomerase that can lengthen, but it doesn't win the tug of war. It still shortens. Okay, so nothing wins the tug of war. There's nothing available yet wins the tug of war. And so all it's really doing is kind of decreasing the rate of aging. Now, that said, we have found that when the telomeres get really short, they do start lengthening. Okay, so the critically short telomeres do get longer, and that's why everybody who's on isagenesis is seeing some age reversal things. Like even me, I've seen age spots disappear on my hands. I've seen my vision get better. I've seen my endurance get better, and it's only explainable by isagenesis.
It's really incredible. Just a lot of the testimonies, and even people that they're in their 20s and they're 30 and just in recovery or other issues that they have been able to just see quality of life increases. So it's because we're always aging. Yeah. No matter what age you are.
I'm trying to fix that. Yeah.
You're working all the time on it, so we appreciate that. So then how did it come about then, like your lab, Sierra Sciences, and John, how did that meeting?
Well, first of all, the company that I was working for when I first discovered telomerase, they decided suddenly to become a cancer research company. And I'd already been, have a big, strong history in cancer. In fact, my National Inventor of the Year award in 1997 was for my cancer research, not my aging research. So I was obsessed with aging, and when they decided to become a cancer company and stop all work on aging, I thought that was nonsense, and so I started Sierra Sciences to focus on the aging, and they gave me their blessing. Actually, we weren't competitors at all. So we were working for a long time, making a little bit of progress, not really happy with things, and then Peter Greenlaw, he one time called me up and was very interested in talking about telomeres. I ended up talking to him, and then he brought John Anderson to my company, and we talked for a long time. In fact, I was probably sitting right where I am right now during that meeting, talking to John Anderson on the other side of the table here. During that meeting, we outlined a plan where he would start sending us natural products to test, and we would see that if any of them caused telomerase to be reduced in human cells. We had already told him that, we've already tested 2,000 different natural products and not a single one of them worked. But he said, test mine, because most natural products that you buy on the market are prepared incorrectly. They've got solvents that destroy activity. They take them through heat treatments that destroy activities. He doesn't do any of that kind of stuff. He says that we could even test the same things we've already tested, prepared by other people. And he said we might find some that work. So first thing he does, so we signed a deal. We got it all organized. Me and the scientists were all excited until he sent us 15 samples, okay? We thought, 15? We've already checked 2,000. There's no way 15 is going to work. And it was a real struggle to even get the scientists to do it. But then, to our surprise, one of those 15 was a hit. And it was the first hit that we'd ever seen. So now we had tested 2015, and in the last 15, one of them worked. We thought that was an extreme stroke of luck. And so John Anderson sent us another 15. And again, we found another hit. And that's when my scientists and I started really saying, okay, something's real here. In the long run, he sent us 10,000 different natural products over a long period of time. We tested every one of them. And we found 37 or 39, I can't remember, different plant extracts that induce telomerase. And what John did is he took the strongest ones and pulled them and put them together and called it product B, which later became Isagenix. We are still testing things, and that's why there's been a first generation, a second generation, a third generation, a fourth generation. And I'm not allowed to give too many details, but John Anderson has given me the okay to say that we are working on a fifth generation, okay? And we have found hits that are going to be really enhancing the fifth generation when it comes out. But, I would still encourage everybody to keep taking the fourth generation, because they definitely are going to be a lot better off when we come out with the fifth generation if they've been taking the fourth generation during this layoff time. And I don't know when that's going to be. A year from now, 2 years from now, that's totally a John Anderson Isagenix decision, which I don't get any vote in at all.
I would love to, just somebody that's, worked with so many people. I mean, as a geneticist, and just with all of your years of experience and, what you've devoted your life to, and working with John Anderson and Isagenix from, somebody that's partnered with them with your work, could you speak on just kind of them as individuals and what you've seen with the no compromise with Isagenix, even towards, what he's able to send you over? That's amazing. That's an amazing story.
Before I start talking about the people, I should say that Isagenix wasn't the only company that talked with me, okay? And I'm not certain I should mention names, but some major multi-level marketing companies and stuff like that have approached me. And the president of one of the companies one time said, we're just going to send you a bunch of plant extracts and you're going to test them and we're going to put it in the product. And I said, well, suppose it doesn't work. And he says, who cares if it doesn't work? Think of the money we'll make. Okay, and this is, multi-level marketing is a really great business model, but there are a lot of crooks out there that have really taken advantage of it. And because of my experience, and there was at least 3 different big name companies that probably everybody listening to this has heard of. So I was a little bit down, thinking, oh, okay, so even Isagenix might do something that's kind of dishonest or charlatan stuff. But boy, God, I just couldn't believe it. When I started meeting everybody, when I met Suk Chol, okay, he was the chief scientific officer then. He just blew me away with his knowledge about science. And I talked to the equivalent people at other companies, and they were nothing like Suk. Okay, then I met with the Coovers, and I was really impressed that Jim Cougar was saying to me, we don't want to sell anything that doesn't work. You've got to prove it works. Okay. And I said, okay, you know, it's just like, I was so glad to hear this because I just didn't want to have anything to do with any of these charlatan companies because I don't want to be promoted as a snake oil salesman. Okay. I want to have data that show that it works. And so when we actually started getting data showing that it works, and I started showing it at Isagenix conventions, that made all the difference in the world, okay, to me, because, and you know, one time I even brought my top 4 scientists to speak at the convention, and they all went through the data, and they were like, you can tell when somebody's a charlatan, and you can tell somebody when they're a really top scientist and know what they're talking about. And me and my scientists just blew everybody away in the audience because we had data, real data with great statistical analysis showing that this is real. So, and you know, even some of the companies that are, other companies that are selling products that supposedly induce telomerase, there's so many errors in their publications and stuff like that, where they really misunderstood their own results, or maybe it was intentionally misunderstood, just trying to make it so that they can sell the product and make a profit. Isagenix isn't like that. I've been impressed with every single person I've ever met at Isagenix. I like working with the team. I, for a while, was even on the scientific advisory board just because it was a great board filled with some really great scientists. So ethically and intelligence and scientific, Isagenix just blows everybody else away, at least everybody else that I've ever met. So.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm always just like, oh, the Cougars are so amazing in what they do, and just how their leadership has trickled in.
And so is John Anderson. John Anderson is a colleague of mine, and I'll tell you, there's nobody on the planet that I've ever met that knows more about natural products in general than John Anderson. So Isagenix is lucky to have him. And he was the original founder. So he's started a great company.
He didn't give up on the Cougars, kept calling. He's like, ah, I love that story. John Anderson. Just what do you see as far as, like, you know, people call him the mineral man. What would be your saying with the goodies that you get in from him, and, you know, mineral man, just a little bit of like the soils that he extracts from, or do you know those processes at all, or anything that you can speak on of anything about the process?
Yeah, well, I've never heard him called the mineral man before. That's news to me. Because even though he's an expert on minerals like shallagite and stuff like that, I think of him as the natural product man. He's the plant-based man, the botanical man, because he knows more about plants. And, you know, there's been times when I've called him and he's on the slope of some mountain in Mexico or Argentina or something like that, picking plants that he's never tested before, just to take back to his lab and grind up into an extract and send to us for testing. So
I love it. Could you are you able to talk a little bit about your testing that you do at your lab, or what kind of,
we have, when I've described this before. So we have a proprietary assay that we've developed that uses a process called PCR. That what we do is we take like microtiter dishes. A microtiter dish is like a rectangular plate that's actually got like 96 or 384 different test tubes, all side by side. And they're maybe like half an inch high, probably a square like that. And they just got a lot of different holes in them. And you can think of each of those holes as a different test tube. And so what we would do is we'd put human cells in the bottom of each of those test tubes. And then we have these high throughput robots that they don't look like humans. They look like they're just robots. We have 2 rooms just filled with that the robots take up the whole room on. And I've shown these at Isagenix conferences. But these robots will take these microtiter dishes and then add a different natural product to each well. And actually, they do them in quadruplicate. And that's my rule of thumb, is that I always do things in quadruplicate to really verify that it's reproducible and not just some artifact. And then we include a lot of controls, negative controls, positive controls. And so we take these plates, the robot spends like 24 hours incubating them, shaking them, stirring them, you know, and then doing other things just to keeping them at the right temperature. And then after 24 hours, they will add some reagents that will actually cause the cells to break open, so kill the cells. But that releases any telomerase that might be produced in those cells. So if we have a chemical that doesn't produce any telomerase, or a natural product, I'm sorry, we have a natural product that doesn't produce any telomerase in these cells, then there won't be any telomerase there. But if we have some natural product that does produce telomerase, it will produce telomerase. And we can then detect that by this process called PCR. And believe me, we'll have something like 20 scientists all standing around one computer screen just watching as the data starts rolling in, just to see if there's any that work. And so it's been pretty exciting because, you know, the first 1 out of 15 worked, and that's the first time we'd seen anything like that from a natural product. The second 15 got another one that worked, and then we've gotten like 35 to 39 more since then. And so it's all robotic. Well, it's not always. There's a lot of hands-on. I've got a lot of scientists working on that. But because we can do like test 4,000 different natural products a day, a human could never do that without making a mistake. So the robots are mistake-proof, and but humans, it's guaranteed they're going to add 2 chemicals to the same well or skip a well or something like that, and you never know what they did. So, and I keep saying chemicals, but I mean natural products. We also work with chemicals, synthetic chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and stuff like that. But they're a long ways in the future because you have to go through FDA clinical studies and stuff like that, whereas natural products, they're already known to be safe. So we don't have to worry about those. And that's why they can be put on the market so quick, like with Isagenix.
Awesome. I love it. So I know that, you know, the Isagenix recommends 2 in the morning and 2 at night, and that is the Isagenix. Does Bill Andrews have a different regimen for himself? Well,
if I did, I couldn't tell you. The people have asked me many times about that. One time some smart person in the audience said, "What's your favorite number?" I answered 12.
And then what are some of your favorite products then that you use to dominate those ultra marathons? Or like, do you take any of the Isagenix products outside of the Isagenesis?
Yeah, no, I do take the Isagenix shakes. And John Anderson keeps me pretty supplied with those. Okay? So the protein shakes and the regular shakes, I'm really big into the cleanse, though I have to admit I haven't done a cleanse in quite some time, but I don't feel like I need to. I'm actually quite healthy and doing really well. But Ionic Supreme is something I've always been very interested in. I think that's a great product. I take that regularly. Oh, well, the number 1 products that I take are complete essentials. I think that's the best combination of vitamins ever on the planet anywhere. So I take that. I'm looking over at the side here because I've got boxes of complete essentials right there. I take complete essentials with Isagenesis. And then, well, my favorite number is 12, so I do get other things too. But the only other product that I really, really put at the top of the list is e-shots. I'm a big e-shot person. I think I've never seen anything so amazing because I've tried Red Bull and those 5-hour energy things, and they make me like have the shakes. But the adaptogens that are mixed in the e-shots, they just never make the shakes. I get alert. I get talk. I've learned that every time I get up on stage, have an e-shot 10 minutes before, and I can answer every single question. I never get stumped. It makes me sharp as a whip. So I think that's a really amazing product. But I'm trying to think. I haven't tried some of the new products, but I just haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, the cleanse, the peach mango cleanse, tell John to send you some of that. That's his new little baby. And that is like so delicious. We were all talking about that. And then as far as, yeah, if there was just any words that you could give of anything of what to do for an overall healthy lifestyle that you want to leave us with. And so you guys, I'm bringing this amazing human back for a really in-depth presentation on the 30th of telomeres, so he can really go into the science and do a presentation, and we can get into more of the nitty gritty. But I thought it would be great to kind of split it up so we could hear just, you know, the history and the merging of John Anderson's brilliant and Bill Andrews' brilliance and ultra marathon stories. So what do you want to leave us with tonight, my brother?
Well, how do I say this? I actually believe that the #1 cause of aging and declining health is inflammation. I mean, a lot of the products that Isagenix sells really help reduce inflammation. But I carry it further. I do everything, you know, like I do blood work to find out what kind of foods actually induce inflammation in me, and so I don't eat those foods. I read a lot of books and stuff like that on inflammation. And inflammation actually causes accelerated telomere shortening too. Okay, so it's just something that would be my main thing that I would say is do whatever you can to reduce inflammation, and every single person's different. Okay, so you got to find out. You can go to your doctor and say get tested for, you know, things that cause inflammation. The good news is that the Isagenix products don't have anything that causes inflammation. They do the exact opposite. But what I was going to say, yeah, one of the top things that I believe, and this is from a lot of meta-analyses of scientific peer-reviewed journal studies, which means I've read a lot of studies that have been published in peer-reviewed journals, and then I take them all, and I take all the studies, kind of analyze them all, weight them, stuff like that, and find out what is the bottom line on certain things. And one of the things that I've discovered doing these meta-analyses is that endurance exercise is one of the most important things that people can do to not only reduce inflammation, but to actually keep healthy. A lot of people will tell you that running marathons and stuff like that induces inflammation. Well, that's true if you only run every 2 weeks. If you're a person that runs every 2 weeks, you're going to actually do quite well in a marathon, and you're going to be crossing the finish line on your hands and knees, throwing up. For the next 4 or 5 days, you're going to be stiff as a board because your whole body becomes inflamed because your body just feels like it's been run over by a truck. But when you run every day like I do and focus on keeping it fun, like my bottom line, when it quits being fun, quit. Save it for another day. There's been times when I've run 100-mile races, and at 80 miles I quit when it was all downhill to the finish line, you know. And people would say, "What are you doing?" I said, "You know, it's not fun anymore. I'm struggling too much. I don't want to kill myself. I'll wait for the next race." I think that's a really good thing. It's a good way to reduce inflammation. And I think running every day, or at least 6 days a week. I try to run 6 days a week, sometimes 7 days a week. That trains your body into thinking, boy, that sore knee is not some virus infecting you and causing a problem. That sore knee is normal. So your immune system does not send inflammatory cells to the joints to cause repair and or to destroy the virus that they think is there. And the thing that causes most of the swelling at your joints is actually all these immune cells migrating to that joint. There's so many of them, you now start to swell up. Well, the swelling causes the injuries that most of the people get. Okay, so a lot of people that have really sore knees like the day after they run, that's all because of all the inflammation that aggregated there. So if they can find a way to reduce the inflammation, such as by running every day, never pushing it, just taking it easy, keeping it fun, they'll be healthy as ever. They'll never get any inflammation. I've been running. I've been running my whole life. I competed in my first race when I was 10 years old. I ran track and cross country through high school and college. Got into marathons when I was in graduate school. And then when I got out of graduate school, I started ultra marathons. I've run way over 100 marathons. I don't even know how many I've run now because nobody started keeping record until 2000. But I've done over 100 since 2000. I'm sure I probably did at least 50 before then. And so I should have all kinds of joint problems and ankle problems and hip problems. Just, like, because everybody says, running causes all these problems. And I don't have any problems like this. Now, what makes my life a lot easier for when I talk about this kind of stuff is I do have an identical twin brother. And you've met him actually, or I think you've met him, or I think you're maybe even Facebook friends with him. But he's on Facebook. His name is Herrick, Herrick. And if he still has any of his old photos, you can see that boy, he and I were very different. Plus, he was having knee problems and joint problems and talking about getting stem cells and hip replacements, things like that. But he's finally gotten on the bandwagon now. So he's doing everything good. And so if you go to his site right now, you would see a very healthy looking guy that's, my age too. He's 67. And he's getting very into athletics and stuff like that. But he's turned himself around big time just in the last few years. But maybe he has some old pictures. In fact, he used to have pictures of me and him side by side, and people used to think he was my older brother. Now that's all changed.
It's never too late to start, and the earlier you start, the better. So
anybody who thinks it's too late, they're wrong. I mean, it's like amazing changes can occur just by getting yourself healthy. There is this healthy person inside of every unhealthy person. And so I really encourage everybody who thinks they're too late to get on it. They're going to be surprised at how their life's going to change. And I also believe young people should get on it too. I know that some of the products, including Isagenix, say that you really shouldn't be taking it if you're under 18 or something like that. But that's just normal rules that the FDA implies. I guess I can't promote it, but I would say that I personally think that even a pregnant mother should take these products just so her unborn baby gets the benefits of Isagenix and stuff like that. But I can't say that. I'm not a medical professional. I can say I can personally believe it, but I can't recommend it.
Right. And I've had that before too. And I just say, hey, look, this is my personal belief on it, but as far as what the company can recommend. And then I've had some people that are like, yeah, absolutely. But I'm like, look here, if McDonald's is on the approved list,
it's not.
You do what you want with that information. So, Bill, thank you so much. I think that is something, just the inflammation aspect though, that's a massive statement. About that inflammation. And so you guys, if you're in this group and you're checking it out for the very first time, and you really want the nitty gritty science, come back on July 30th, and we will be doing another Zoom for you guys where Bill will really get into the science for all my analytical researchers out there that want to know the in-depth. I'm just like, if I take it and I feel good and Isagenix says to do it, I'm doing it. So
if you want to get a real expert on inflammation, get John Anderson on your interviews. I mean, he can blow me away on the subject of inflammation.
I love it. That's the goal. We're going John Anderson and Eric Cooper. Those are my next. And Dr. Plant. I love that his last name is Plant. He's new with Isagenix. So
That's another one, yeah.
Yeah. So, all right, guys. Well, yep. And if you have any questions or anything, drop them down. But for all of the really in-depth science questions that were asked, we are going to be diving into those more on our next call. So you just have so much, Bill. I had to split you into two.
I am aware that I never did explain what a telomere even is, but I will at the next one so nobody will have any doubt as to what it is.
If you're watching this in the Health and Action group, you've got to be living under a rock if you haven't seen anything of the telomere. But if you're not sure, just means you have to join us again. So, Bill, thank you so much. I know
I enjoyed it.
Making this time. So, all right. Bye, guys.
Talk to y'all later.